Sounds like my house. Marco, it's nice to see you.
You too.
How's everything going?
It's cool.
So just start out by telling me what brings you here.
Well, my issue is I feel I don't show up fully. That could be in a conversation, that could be in my workplace. Sometimes I feel like I'm a shell of myself, an aspect of myself, but sometimes I feel like I'm not just fully there, fully present, a little disassociated.
I've heard you use this expression shell of yourself maybe like 4 or 5 times now in the, exchanges we've had on this topic. Like, can you just tell me what that is for you? What does shell of myself mean?
I actually reflected on it post clarity call, and I think what I was meaning by a shell was um, like a portion of myself, not the full cake, if you will. Just a piece of myself is available,
Yeah.
but also I think I'm hiding,
Okay.
protecting myself.
What are you hiding? What part are you hiding?
I think I'm hiding uh, fear of criticism, fear of judgment, fear of confrontation, fear of looking dumb. So instead of expressing myself fully, I shy away and hide.
So what are you worried is going to happen? Like if somebody thought, oh, well, that video was dumb or whatever, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, I think it's that. That video was dumb. He sounded dumb.
Right.
Um, he's not as cool or as wise or as knowledgeable as he thinks or portrays to be.
Yeah. And so what's the like problem with somebody thinking that they know more about you than they actually know?
Mm, I think the problem is because I'm not showing up 100% and they're creating a perception about something, their own perception about something, a piece of me that's not an accurate representation of me. I think that bothers me the most. I don't know if I clarified that clearly, but
Yeah, but I'm still curious, like what's at stake? I mean, let's say that they're, entitled to their opinion and what's at stake for you.
I guess any misperceived perception of me.
Right? Misperceived perception of you. What does that cost you?
I think that it's more like a blow to the ego.
Right.
Yeah.
So why is that important? Why does your ego care?
I think my ego or my personality self, my self-consciousness
Yes.
has a standard
Yes.
that that I do embody. And that's the funny part, because
Right.
I do have access to that, to all of me, if you will. Um, I wouldn't say most times, but more often than not. And then when that other part of me, that less than version of me appears, I'm like, where'd you come from? Like I was just dropping some dope ass knowledge like an hour ago, and
Right.
here's this other version of me that's not showing up,
Yeah.
that's not forceful, that's empty, a little blank, not present.
Do you remember when the blank version came on the scene?
I mean, it could be possibly um, growing up playing with friends, and it's a group of four friends, and we're playing sports, and we each have to pick, teammates. But who I thought was my best friend is not picking me; he's picking the other homie, And it's that way every single time. I'm like, why you always got to pick him? How come we're not, varying it up, switching it up?
What do you mean every single time?
Every single time we play every single day, so we're always playing various sports, and we
Yeah.
would have to make teams.
Okay.
But the closest friend to me out of the four is always picking the other friends of ours every single time.
Your best friend is basically, you know, not not feeling like he has your back. You're feeling like he doesn't have your back.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd
What,
say he
what age
was,
are we talking
huh?
about? What age are we talking about?
I think we're talking about 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
But I think I've been seeing that trend, you know, after that.
Mm. What, that people are not picking you even though you're the cool one? No, really, is that it? Is that it?
Well, not that I'm the cool one or not the cool one, but more so, how come I'm not being selected? How come am I not? Sometimes I just don't feel like I'm the first pick
Mm.
priority. Not that I have to be, but some balance would be nice.
I see. Okay, so some balance would be nice, meaning it would be nice if I at least got picked once, first once, or sometimes. Is that what you're saying?
At least 3 times.
At least three times, right? I got picked three times, the whole thing would all fall apart right now. So it's like a problem of regularity of feeling not picked.
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, I'm very tempted to ask you this question right now, so I'll just ask it. Who has picked you?
Girlfriends, um, I'd say girlfriends, and maybe some accomplishments of mine that have yielded adoration
Like what?
and attention and respect from teammates. So I do jujitsu. I'm on a jujitsu team, a competition team. I've
Wow.
won some pretty big tournaments,
Nice.
and now I'm noticed,
Right. So the team picked you, and obviously your coaches pick you, and now some of the judges are picking you.
Sure.
Okay, and you're telling me a series of girlfriends have picked you.
Yeah, I was their number one for some time.
Right now, you're in a partnership.
Correct.
She's picking you.
Yes.
So you said I want some balance, but now I'm asking you, well, has anyone picked you? You're saying yes. So does that create the balance, or are we looking for someone else who you need to pick you or would
I'm
like?
I'm looking for me to pick me.
Oh, okay. I like that. Okay. So is that kind of the problem that you're perceiving that others aren't, but you're not picking you?
I believe so. And I feel that this is a weird quality. And
Yeah.
when I say quality, I don't mean it in the positive connotation.
Okay.
I have a good friendship with a friend of mine, and we're 14 years in age difference.
Okay.
Saw him from a 17-year-old to him now being a 32, 33-year-old.
Cool.
What's funny though is as I have evolved personally over the years, I still interact with him from an older identity of myself.
Mhm.
So he's not getting any of the updated me,
Okay.
updated spiritual software, evolution. I'm
Yeah.
still interacting with him from like 2007.
Okay.
So I have this weird ability that I'm not so fond of to reduce myself to an older version of myself instead of just flourishing and being who I am in this moment.
Okay, so what do you understand that to be about? Like, why would your consciousness or super consciousness appear as a 16-year junior of who you are now? You said 2007 is when I feel stuck, and it's now 2023. So, what do you understand to be going on there?
I think maybe just trying to be on his level.
Okay.
Though he has also grew and evolved.
Yeah.
So I have this stuck perception.
So what I want to know now, and really think about this when it's important, is why is the you who appears contingent on the audience? Because that's what I've heard you say several times now. It
Mhm.
depends on who the audience is. And now you're even telling me I can even do it to the level of the specific person expects me in this specific way. So I can, basically chameleon into that expectation. But
What's funny is I think that person expects me to be that way, but that's probably the furthest thing.
like, I agree. And I mean, I feel that way for the general audience too. Like, I don't know what the hell they expect. I don't even know who they are. For all you know, people are watching who are not saying anything and are loving it or thinking it's awesome. So I agree.
Right.
I'm not sure that we know what the expectations are on the other side, but that's, not neither here nor there. But what I'd like to know is why, where does that filter come from that puts that in front of, I'll just say whatever makes sense and feels good to me.
Maybe I'm afraid to show all of my weirdness.
Okay. I'm afraid to show all of my weirdness. Is that what you said?
Perhaps, yeah, that's what I said. And maybe in turn,
I wrote that one down because it's important. I'm afraid
feel
to show all of my weirdness. Okay.
maybe I fear another misperception
What's
of
what's wrong with being weird?
I love being weird.
Yeah, I mean, what do you mean when you say I'm afraid to show it? What are you afraid to show?
I just think some of the people that I'm surrounded by default, because I work with them, have a certain perception of me.
Right? They do.
And as I begin to trickle more of my authenticity, it's met with resistance, it's met with judgment, criticism, ignorance,
Right?
and I'm a peaceful person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in the heat of the moment, I can't collect my resources to counter or combat, which
Mm-hmm.
makes me retreat or deflect in some cool way.
Right?
So I play it cool, but inside I'm like tormented.
Yeah, what do you feel inside?
I feel not resourceful. I don't have a counter in the moment. I'll have it after I reflect on it. Like my
Stairway wit, isn't that what it's called? I have stairway wit. Like when you're going down the stairs of a party is when you realize what you should have said upstairs. Yeah.
right. And then it's in those moments where I feel a little helpless. I don't have access to those resources.
Okay.
But what's funny is those same exact things that I would have said to them, I could say to someone else the day before perfectly.
Mhm.
The matter of having access and not having access.
Okay, so for you, the experience inside of your mind or body or spirit is sometimes I can draw on all my resources, but sometimes I get frozen because of a reaction or whatever. And then, like, the door feels closed, so to speak.
Correct.
That's what brings about this feeling of disassociation, being a shell, whatever.
Correct.
Do you
Retreat.
retreat?
Hmm.
Do you have a sense of what creates the door starting to swing towards close?
I think it's when I perceive someone maybe judging me.
Okay.
I think it's that, like when I just sense a judgmental presence,
Right.
I start to try to protect or lessen what I'm delivering in the moment or condense it. I feel contracted. So I feel to retreat or hide or slow it down or simplify it or shut it all down.
Isn't that kind of normal? Isn't it natural when you feel a threat, which may be perceived or may be real, but isn't it a normal reaction to recoil from feeling, not seen or not
I think it is, but it's starting to feel unnatural to me.
right? Well, that's what I'm wondering is like there's a certain amount of it that seems average or normal, like a child would do that too, right? But
Mhm.
somewhere along the way, it's going into this sucks or this is fucking me up, right?
Right.
Okay, so where is that line, do you think? Do you know?
It could be with the simple, I could be in a conversation and a certain person might step into the room and
Okay.
then boom, that
Okay.
door getting ready to shut.
Okay,
That
so it's a
shut.
conversation over here, and then somebody else appears over here, and just the energy of it creates the retraction.
Retraction. And it's usually someone I know. It could be someone, it's usually someone I know, or it could be someone that looks a little sketchy to me.
Okay. So it's fair to say that you're like an excellent reader of energy.
Um, Not sure about excellent, but yeah,
Right.
my senses are pretty activated.
Well, and the reason I said that is because what you're telling me is some radar is informing me to change what's going on,
Yeah, change course.
sensory radar.
Hmm.
Okay, so I want to just ask you a question about the scene that you painted, which was something about, I'm going to be perceived as too radical or too weird, too outside of the box. Did I get that right?
Yes.
That some of the hesitation is about the extremity of your weirdness.
Yeah. Or even just appearing foolish. Um, but that's well, appearing foolish meaning I appreciate my weirdness. I love it. I will showcase it to the end.
Right?
And a judgment gets casted towards me, and I'm not grounded enough or resourceful enough to respond to it. Even just keeping my own peace, um, I think I might inherently feel embarrassed or that I didn't show up or I didn't express my feelings on the matter.
I'm trying to understand better, like, how is it that you're so confident in your weirdness? Like, to the extent that you can, be a quantum healer and do quantum biological, whatever it is that you do, which is very, niche and very esoteric. And here you are working with hypnosis, and here you are working with, physical arts, which are pretty extreme as well. So you have like this identity that's pretty concretely set in a belief system that you're super confident about, right? Is that right?
Super confident? I don't know, but I love to do what I'm doing. And yeah, I guess I'm confident in it.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand like you perceive yourself as a rule breaker. You perceive yourself as an exception. Is that right? I mean, I do too, so this is not like surprising me or anything.
Yeah,
We're on the fringe here of even mental health care. So
sure.
it is fringy. But you like that.
I love it.
I mean, that's what I'm wondering. Like, if you were more mainstream, would that work any better?
I wouldn't want to be mainstream, but yeah,
I,
no, I don't know. I don't think so.
yeah, so it's the identity is correct for you and is accurate and feels good to you.
Correct.
So what's the problem with other people not getting it? Because and the reason I'm asking it in this order is because the fringe by definition other people don't get. So I'm surprised that you're surprised that it's not widely appreciated.
It might be, it might not necessarily be other people. It might be the people that I know and that know me or think they know me. And, I teach Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, so I have um, a slew of people that I'm in contact with every single day. I own a coffee shop, loads of people come there. So I'm interacting with so many energies.
Yeah.
throughout the day, and they've all made some imprint on who they think I am.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't know what I do when I'm not teaching. I'm into so many wild things that they could never fathom.
Okay.
And so, and those other things are what consume me, but those are also the things that I keep away or keep hidden
Okay.
from some of my closest friends who are also my coworkers. I don't know. I don't know why I hide it. I'm slowly trickling it
Why
out,
why are you hiding it?
probably because I feel they're just going to misperceive everything.
I mean, I'm just super confused right now because they're misperceiving everything as it is because they don't know who you really are. So what's the difference if their misperception is this kind or another kind?
Hmm.
I mean, let's just start with, would you agree that if you're hiding, they're misperceiving you because
Yeah,
because you're hidden?
that's right.
So everybody you know has a misperception of you except for maybe your intimate partner right now.
Correct.
Okay. So that's kind of interesting in itself.
Hmm.
How does it feel to operate in a existence where
I think you froze.
oh, did I?
You just froze.
Am I still moving on my side? On your side?
I see you now. You said, how did it feel to experience
How do,
in?
how does it feel to be in the experience of being misperceived universally? Because the way we started the conversation was more like a few people misperceive me, but now it seems like your MO is that everyone misperceives me because I'm not fully sharing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Like, that's weird because every single person you interact with basically only knows one face of you or several faces of you.
Right. I think I'm also weary to share anything because if I don't articulate it correctly, if I'm not fully present, um, it'll just come off weird and compound more on their misperception, potential misperception.
Where did you get the idea that it's your responsibility to explain to people what they're needing to know about you?
Mm, it's a good question. I'm unsure where I got that from. The need to explain.
I mean, let me ask you this. The cool people who you know, have they explained themselves to you? Or, or
No.
do or do they just live the way they do and you kind of like get what that is from watching and talking with them and stuff?
Yeah, they do what you just said.
Yeah, they just are because frankly, they don't have time or interest to explain individually to everyone what they stand for.
Right,
And in fact, that's part of their mystique and power is that they couldn't give a flying shit what each individual thinks, nor do they feel they owe everyone an explanation.
right.
Okay. And yet you have this thing about if I don't explain it and justify it, I won't be well received. What would
Or room for more misperceptions.
so is it possible that everyone could perceive you correctly or accurately or as much as they have the capacity to, and that you have not given them the benefit of the doubt?
Yes.
So, where do you think this whole thing comes from that it's probably the negative and not the positive?
I think it's my own created um, thing because the more I evolve,
Yeah.
especially talking with you, as quantum as you are, and as quantum as I'm trying to attain, not trying to attain, but and being too. It's like I'm thinking more multidimensionally, and everyone that I'm around thinks one dimensionally.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like I'm almost weeding myself out because it's not, we're not on the same wavelength anymore.
Totally.
I'm going to different realms,
Yeah.
and I love that. And I'm thinking differently, more multidimensionally, not just one dimensionally. And all of them are doing that. And it's getting a little annoying. And maybe I don't want to share with them.
Well, and that's what I was curious about. Like, in the end of the day, and please don't feel insulted, I'm paid to ask the hard
Please
question.
do it. Yes.
Lay it on you.
Give it to
Some of my clients say she's getting out her ice pick. But I mean, aren't you just judging all these people and saying like they don't have the capacity to understand my complexity?
Yep.
How is that in alignment with the complexity?
I'm making it more complex by judging them.
I mean, I thought the whole point of the complexity was to leave the material restrictions. But what you're telling me is the complexity makes me more concerned about the material restrictions.
What is the complexity?
What is complexity?
What are you defining as complexity?
Well, I mean, I'm interested in like how you're perceiving you and how you're perceiving yourself as with respect to these others, so-called. Because what I'm hearing you say is my dimensionality or my quantumness, to like put it in our terms, excludes their understanding. And therefore, I'm separate. And that makes me unwilling to take a further step towards them. So, in my mind, I'm hearing that as like, I perceive myself correctly, but now that perception creates division on the material level. But what I'm saying at the end of that is, I thought the whole point of this was to leave all that stuff behind.
I
So
feel,
you're being more of it, it's excluding the enacting of it fully.
yeah, and I think that's because I perceive myself, did you say perfectly or correctly?
I said correctly, yeah, but
Yeah,
perfect.
so I feel I perceive myself correctly
Yeah,
because it's what resonates with me,
yeah,
but I don't articulate myself
yeah,
correctly,
yeah.
and that's where the disconnect lies for me. Like
Right.
I'm completely fine with all that I do,
It's bigly fine. Okay. I love it. You're bigly fine with all this,
but
but not articulating it creates the burden.
yes, creates the friction within me, creates the tension.
When did it become your responsibility to explain yourself? I mean, like you're telling me the explanation is where I fall short. So why are you responsible? Why is there a difference between being you and explaining you? I mean, we're back to a question I just asked 10 minutes ago, which was something like, don't you know a bunch of people who just embody their quantumness and don't offer, an explanation for it? So I'm back to that question of why is it that you owe an explanation?
Because there's a lot of situations that come up in the workplace or in interactions with other people that I innately sometimes have an answer for that I can't access because that door shuts. And then when I get home and reflect on all of it, it all pours out.
Right.
God damn it.
Yeah, but so actually, some of it is just about when. Some of it is just the moment. It's just that it wasn't there in the moment that you needed it.
Yes, but it feels like I shut that door. I'm like, it's right. All the resources are right in the next room, but I'm closing the door to it.
Are you able to see yourself in the future as the Marcos who has access to all the doors whenever he wants them?
Yes, I'm doing that now.
Yeah. And when you see that version of yourself in the future, first of all, when is that version of you? Is it like now, 2 months, 6 months, a year,
Oh,
five?
when it,
Yeah, like
when
when That imagined version that I just asked you about.
Well, when I imagine that version, it's me right now.
Okay. So it's the version of you right after this call who does have all the doors open.
Correct. And it was the me before this call that I was creating that person.
Okay, I like that. Right.
And it was it was swirling nicely. It was a yummy, sultry, abundant, freeing texture of being. And I'm like, yes, that's the energon that I need to imbibe.
Okay.
And I felt, fully embodied.
Yeah. Do you feel that right now?
So yeah, I mean, I feel pretty all right. I didn't know how it was going to turn up today,
Yeah.
being in the presence of however many people viewing this, but I'm okay.
Yeah. So all the doors are open?
I'd say some doors are open, maybe a window too.
Oh, a window as well? I love that. Okay. Does it feel good?
Yeah, it's cool. I feel cool.
Is this what you were telling me is the feeling of association versus disassociation? Do you feel that right now?
I feel a lot more associated than disassociated.
Okay.
Um,
Is
yeah,
it-
the association just feels like just empty, just empty,
Okay. It's
blank.
it's an extreme version of you because you're not that at all right now.
Right.
The blank version really like leaves the building.
Hmm.
Then you really like are at a loss totally. It's
Hmm.
interesting. Okay. And so,
Hmm.
but what you're telling me is the person I'm talking with right now has the access, and the one in your mind after the call has the access. You have the key, all the keys.
I'm forging the keys. Yeah.
What are you doing in the scene in your mind in the future?
Um, I just see myself expressing myself effortlessly and perfectly. Every string of words is is clean, it's cool, it's poignant, it's concise, and it's fun. And I feel quirky and fun about it. And I'm expressing any points I want to express, and
Okay,
fully.
ask the version of you that we're working with, the imagined one. How did you do that?
You said ask them.
Ask him.
How did you do that?
Yeah, you can do it in your head or you could do it out loud. I just want to know, like, does he have a tip for you? Does he have advice?
Let me ask them.
Yeah,
One second.
take your time, no rush.
The first two words that come up is I'm just being.
I'm just being, right?
Or
Just,
three words.
yeah, I'm just being. So he's just being himself.
Yeah.
He's just being. He's not really doing anything.
Not doing shit.
Let me ask you a very important question. I'm not doing shit. Exactly. I'm not doing shit. And that's the question I had is he giving an explanation?
No, but what comes up is not doing shit, but not trying to do shit, and not trying to be anything.
Okay, but so have we hit upon the problem right now, which is that you're trying too hard?
Yeah, I go into trying mode.
Right. Okay, so what's up with that?
I gotta ask my superconscious more questions.
I think we should. Because I think the quantum awesome version of you doesn't need to try. It just is quantum awesome.
I know.
And I kind of think that's the like culmination of quantum awesomeness, if that's a thing, is not doing anything.
Well,
Everything being attracted through the quantum field. So then why is the trying version of you trying to argue with that?
I have no idea.
When did you get into trying to be cool instead of just being cool? Are we
Mm,
back to the four kids playing ball and it was like I
No,
had to try to get picked?
I wasn't trying to be cool then.
And I mean, honestly, I don't even know why I said that because it's not exactly the same thing. Do you know when did the trying get added in?
I don't know. I feel it will come up at some point
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
but I can't pinpoint a specific situation.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to that, which I've been holding on to for a few minutes, so I'm gonna put it out right now.
Oof.
Prepare, buckle up. A lot of the justification you've given in the last half hour has been about I can't explain it or I can't, justify it or I can't speak the way I want to. So it's all caught up in semantics or like words, for lack of a better expression. I'm just curious to know, like, is that the issue? Is it the verbalizing and the communicating that catches you, or is it the vibe or the feeling?
That
Because
kept
it
me
kind of crosses into like a public speaking question or a speaking in front of others thing, rather
right.
than I don't know my identity or I don't feel confident or something. So I'm just trying to understand, like, does it have something to do with the expressing and then it creates some kind of, do you know where I'm going? Like, I just am wondering, is that it? Or is that a piece
So,
of,
I think it might be in the words and the expressing. Um, when I'm on point, it just comes out. When it doesn't come out, is probably where I'm like, oh shit, I'm trying to make it come out.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
I mean, because it's kind of hard to explain ideas like the quantum field in words.
Hmm.
It is inherently kind of a challenge for anyone.
Hmm. Yeah.
What's not fun about feeling that the burden of that is yours?
Mm, I don't know.
How are you going to get there to that point of just being and not trying?
Well, what I recently started doing, of which I've known for years, but I neglected to do or forgot to do, is just keep creating that version of myself, that desired version of myself daily, moment to moment, even. Just create, don't complain. Um, and again, that's something that I knew, but I never installed it into my subconscious software until a few weeks ago, or a week ago, actually.
Yeah.
Like,
What made,
that's it. I'm just going to create the version of myself that I desire.
what made you remember to install that?
Just listening to various super conscious content. And I'm like, yeah, just keeps hammering the same points I've heard over the years that I didn't act on.
Like what?
Like just creating that version, that desired version of myself, and not wasting my time being in this problem fix it structure and being in this create my desired self structure. Just create, create, create nothing but what I want instead of what I don't want.
Okay, so how does that change the problem when you realize that?
That it's almost reframing the problem that maybe the problem is not actually the problem, um, and that I am whole, I'm not broken, I'm not a shell of myself,
Yeah.
um, and to just keep creating me.
Is that true, Marcos? Is that accurate more than before? The statement before? The statement before was sometimes I'm a shell of myself. And the statement you just gave me now was I am not a shell of myself. I am
So
not, I'm home.
the statement before is definitely subconscious, and the statement now is more conscious. So I'm trying to embody statement just now to become the reality. But it's funny because in the same token, yes, sometimes I'm a shell of myself, and sometimes I am not a shell of myself, and I don't know how I'm going to show up, if you will.
Is everybody sometimes a shell of themselves?
I think so.
I mean, is it healthy to sometimes just be the shell?
I think in the right context, it'll serve me,
Yeah.
but I feel it's a little too much.
That's what I'm just wondering is, isn't some amount of it okay to keep
I think so.
as protection?
Yes.
Sometimes it's just tiredness too. Sometimes we show a little bit of the shell because it's not worth the expenditure.
Right.
Would you agree that you're a good judge of that?
Say that question again.
Would you
The
agree that you're a good judge of that
good judge of,
when the expenditure is too high?
yeah, it's when I start trying to express myself, whatever, correctly or how I would like, and it's just not coming off, then I'm expending a lot of energy on it.
For some reason, this is making me think of when I defended my dissertation, my PhD dissertation, because I spent so many years writing that book and I really wanted it to say what I understood the argument to be. But along the way, I realized that nobody who was reading it cared. And so the energy I was putting into it was, I could have just spent it raising my kids or doing something else, because at the end of the day, whether I wrote it accurately or slightly inaccurately, the people reading were still at the same level of understanding. So then I stopped trying so hard and I got the degree instead of just stretching it out indefinitely to where I could never seem to finish. So there was something inside of me where it was like, I had to admit that what I had to say was good enough inside of me, and the parts that they were going to receive were going to be received to the extent they could receive them. And that would just have to be good enough. And I
Mm-hmm.
still need a doctorate from that anyway.
And I like that would just have to be good enough. And that's um, a little revelation that I have been uncovering over the last few weeks. This is good enough.
It's good enough. And also, because it's good enough, I have more time and energy to collect more of the correct data inside of myself so that if somebody did want to know more, I could more fully represent it. But if I spent all my time on the footnotes and the details and the this and that nobody was reading anyway, then I didn't have enough bandwidth to go back to the original experience.
Right. And bandwidth is a good word because, me feeling like I'm a shell of myself kind of just feels like I have just wonky Wi-Fi.
Right. Wonky Wi-Fi, right. Exactly, right.
I'm fully online. I'm more offline and I get offline
Yeah.
like that and then get right back online. Maybe when that person leaves the room.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's so weird. And it all is predicated on what they need instead of what I need.
Mm-hmm. Which
So,
makes me feel powerless. I'm
right.
given power.
Well, and
So,
it is a powerless experience because we don't know what they need. So once you get into that realm, you're like, well, I would have to be psychic to know what to accurately say right now in the tiny amount of snippet time that I have to even communicate it.
mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't that kind of a tall order?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if we're talking about explaining like the quantum world in, a snippet.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it kind of unreasonably a tall order?
Yeah.
Are you just expecting too much from yourself?
Mm, yeah, maybe.
I mean, in terms of the tall order, like it's a lot to put on yourself to assume an
It is.
explanation could be even given in that moment.
And plus, I'm the elder in my group of friends. Again, one of my closest friends is 14 years younger than me.
Mhm.
And, you know, a lot of the people we know are younger.
Right,
I'm the teacher in the class, they're all younger.
right.
So I kind of like take this role as the elder wise one. And just because I'm like, I have to be a symbol, I have to be a representation for higher thinking, for higher being, that I have access to,
Yeah.
and then I get cut offline.
Yeah. I hear it. I mean, what I'm hearing you say is because I have this role, I have put pressure on myself to communicate what that role is. But I'm just curious to know, isn't just being in the role plenty?
Right. And that's some more revelations. I'm like, if I just be me and just radiate me, that is enough. I don't even have to say a word.
I know. And like here we are the whole time. I have to give an explanation, whatever else. But then the real authentic version of you says, I'll just radiate what I am, and that will be enough education for everyone. Would you feel associated in that if you just radiate and don't put yourself in the position of having to explain?
Yeah, if I'm just wondering what's stopping me from just radiating.
Yeah, I am too. What's stopping you? And let's not say just because radiating is a lot. So let's take out the just and say, what's stopping you from radiating?
Yeah. Mm, hmm. I guess fear of judgment, being judged if I radiate correctly or not correctly.
Okay, but now I love where you are in the problem right now because this is where the problem ends is there such a thing as radiating correctly? Or isn't radiating
Radiating.
by definition what it is? No, I mean asking it seriously. This is like an important metaphysical question. Is it possible to radiate yourself incorrectly?
I'd say no, but I don't know. I think I'm emitting some lackluster frequencies sometimes.
When? When are you radiating lackluster versus just radiating what you are?
Um, it's so weird because, I teach classes almost every other night, and some classes are stellar, and I feel so free and effortless, flowy. I'm like, wow, that happened so quick, and it was so perfect. And then other times, I'm just trying to come up with the perfect explanation, the right keywords to make the information stick. And if that's not happening, or even before that's not happening, I might even start the session and I'm already just shy out of nowhere. And I'm like, why? Because I know these people, I teach these people often. Why am I really shy in this moment?
Yeah.
It's just weird. I'm like, I feel like I don't have control over how I show up.
Is that you radiating or is that you trying?
That's me trying.
What's the cost to you of all this trying?
I'd say like emotional turmoil in the form of just a sense of lack, feeling like I'm moving through like a sludgy mud.
Right? So
But
it's
it, yeah, the opposite extreme of that is just a flowy, effortless radiance. So I'm dealing with these two, with this polarity
yeah,
of flowy radiance and sludgy mud.
redeemer.
It makes the time much longer, much rigid. I feel contracted inside, and I just don't know why. I'm like, why? That's weird.
What do you stand to gain by losing the sludgy mud feeling?
just pure flow, free happiness. I feel like my true self when I express that flowiness.
Are you ready to embody that as your main personality?
Yeah.
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 When did you become ready?
I'm ready yesterday. I'm ready years ago. But I think now I have a better psychology about it. I think I have a better, I think I have just, I'm learning how to create that. So,
Yeah. And being honest, you weren't ready years ago.
right.
I mean, that's why it didn't happen.
Hmm.
So why now?
I think I got to, it reached the threshold, a boiling point, and I'm like, this is lame. Like, I'm holding back all of my talents and my gifts.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Like,
how old are you?
48.
So is that part of why you're ready now? Because you've entered a different phase of life?
Got older, and it's just been way too long
Yeah.
and holding back. And I'm like, no, I have to radiate.
Yeah. How do you feel about radiating in this moment right now?
I think it's slightly impartial because, again, my conscious mind all day is all about radiating and expressing my truth. But there's a subconscious and my conscious are not in agreement. But I feel like I'm definitely getting much closer.
Is your subconscious objecting?
I think my subconscious is protecting,
Yeah. What's it protecting?
protecting from looking dumb, protecting from being criticized, judgment.
Yeah. So now we're back to I'm not radiating, I'm trying to manipulate what other people think.
I think I'm going to let go of that. That's a waste of energy.
I hope and I wonder, like, are you being genuine when you say I'm going to let go of that? Because you've repeated many times in this call already that that's the problem. So when you say, okay, I'm going to let go of that, like, say a little more.
I created a mantra that some will agree, some won't agree. So what? Either way. And I'm just really trying to imprint that as a code.
Isn't it true too that some will agree and some will not agree, and some will change their mind once they've sat with it or once they've gotten to know more? And so what they say at the outset is not necessarily how it ends.
That's true.
Why haven't you given people time to modify their view if necessary?
Because I'm not sure if I'm giving them a good enough um, representation or explanation or physical embodiment of what I want to articulate.
I'm having this funny like feeling about when you're dating, like I'm out on the dating scene, right? And so a lot of the time I feel that I'm not willing to justify who I am. I just am who I am. But I think a lot of the problem with dating is that people, are worried about, well, what if they don't get me and I didn't explain myself, completely. But then at the end of the day, if somebody likes you, they like you. And if somebody doesn't like you, they don't. And we know that without all the explanation stuff.
Right.
How is that an analogy to this? Because it's true, right? Like, why would we want to date someone who's waiting for the explanation? Like, isn't it enough that they just have familiarity or get some kind of vibe?
Yeah. And that's what's crazy because, like, if I'm dating, I'll go to the date in sweatpants. Like, I'm going as me.
Right.
So and that's the paradox. Because with other things, it's the opposite extreme. But with some things, I'm like, no, this is me. Take it or leave it. And so it's
So you have
weird.
that part of your personality, the take it or leave it part.
Yeah, it's a battle.
Yeah. Okay. And so, but on the other side is the no, I need to justify and explain it. So, what sets apart those two criterias for you or experiences?
Good question.
Is it the context?
It could be the people,
Okay.
could be the people involved in the interactions, um, where I might shut down. So, in the presence of a certain personality or in front of a certain type of person.
Who?
Probably my closest friend, who again is 14 years younger. And me and him co-own the coffee shop. Me and him both run the jujitsu classes at the school. And me and him had to make collective decisions. And that's always really hard.
Interesting. So he's like a partner business wise.
Correct. Best friends first,
Yeah.
transition to business partners, which can wreak havoc on a relationship, especially when decisions have to be made. And so if we have um, decisions that are not compatible and we don't know how to communicate um, our, now I'm losing track. Um, but yeah, if we don't know how to just articulate our reasoning for our decisions,
Yeah.
having to justify our decisions
I get it.
causes a little friction. And if I'm thinking from a certain wavelength, he's thinking from a certain wavelength. If he's not seeing something that I am seeing and I can't articulate it without being emotional about trying to stamp my point, that could be a little tough. And same and vice versa. He might not articulate it correctly and it creates a little feud of some sort.
Right. So actually the real problem exists when there's something at stake,
Yeah.
meaning like a business partner or something we have to decide on that's important.
Hmm.
So it's not just I show up as a shell of myself in random or unexpected ways. It's when there's a context that demands the professional side of me.
It could be also the personal side of me. It could be we might have a difference in opinion on maybe a spiritual matter.
Okay.
Um, Not a spiritual matter, matter and spiritual matter. Like
Okay.
maybe coming from a whole different, let's just call it a more worldly aspect. And I might be touching on a metaphysical topic, and he would maybe vehemently disagree with me out of his own conclusions about something he doesn't fully even grasp or know about. And I might be like, in my mind, but not telling him, like, you're just making a conclusion that you have no experience with. And so, yeah, I don't know.
What communication is missing between the two of you that would help?
I think me being more truthful to him, me being more honest with him, me expressing more of what I truly feel instead of condensing um condensing my truth to match either his or a happy medium. Like there's a employee of ours who has been working with us for 4 years. He's only getting paid 13 an hour. He asked for a raise upwards to 16.50 an hour. Now, my standpoint is this is someone who's been working with us since the very beginning of the coffee shop, and he's a decent worker. He's not the best, but he's good at the same time. Like he's great on point, but then he's awful at times. But he still has held us down for 4 whole years. And I'm like, you know what? I want to give him what he wants
Yeah.
because I'm just so grateful that he's doing all the shifts that my partner and I don't want to do. And so I brought it to my partner and he's like, nah, man, we'll give him 14.
Okay.
Like, nah, man, I think he deserves 16. He's been with us 4 years. But then my partner's like, well, is he 16? Is he valuable at $16? Like, what has he how has he grew with the company in terms of his value? And I'm like, just his sheer dedication for me.
Yeah.
It's, look, I don't have to wake up every morning and do those shifts because of him. And so I feel he should get the 16.
Is that worth $2 an hour? Damn straight, for sure.
Damn straight. So that's where we might have a difference in opinion. So we kind of settled on 15,
Yeah.
but again, I want to give my guy the whole thing. I want to give him what he asked for. My partner doesn't.
Mhm.
So
But,
it's like
but hold on a second. So you ended up, the conclusion was he went from 12 to 15,
he went from 13 and he asked for 1650. My partner actually is going to offer him 1450.
right? And then
Like, how about we just make it 15? And then my partner's like, well, if he asks for it, then I'll give it to him.
but so just correct me if I'm wrong from the monetary standpoint, you ended up getting him not only the raise, but $1.50 above where your partner wanted to go.
Yes, ideally, correct.
But so you're $1.50, or you're gonna end at what, 14.50? So 15, you're gonna end at 15. So you're $1.50 shy of what you think it should be.
Of what he wanted, and I was willing to grant it. So if it was just my personal business, my partner had no involvement, I would give him at least $60.
But he got a 250 raise because you advocated for it.
Correct.
And he's still $1.50 off of what he should be in your eyes, but there's potential for him to go there.
Sure.
Okay, why is that not good enough since you ended up, advocating and moving the dial the right way? Why is that not good enough for you?
Well, I feel because he was en route to get a raise irregardless. And secondly, he asked for it and the way he asked for it. And when I reflected on, what his involvement in my coffee shop business, what it means to me, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I want to give you what you want.
Okay, I understand that I agree with you, by the way. Like, as a business owner, I would just throw the money at him and say, thank you so much. I'm super grateful. I'm fully on board with you.
Yeah.
But I'm asking, so we have that in agreement. But what I'm asking is actually, in between two partners in entrepreneurship, there's disagreement. That's by nature of being two different people. You
Correct.
ended up sharing your wisdom. Your partner ended up sharing his, which you consider lesser wisdom, but he shared it anyway. You didn't end up in the middle. You ended up closer to your position. So you must have done something good and right.
We actually ended up in the middle with the caveat that when my partner tells him
Right.
that range, if he asks for at least 15, then he'll get it.
Which all you need to do is tell him to ask, and then the partner will do it.
Right. Now, mind you, I'm content with the decision because long ago I've let it all go. We've had friction on paint color, on a lot of different choices, on placement of the menu, all these things. And I'm like, you know what? It's just much easier to, speak my piece, but let him make the final decision. And I'm okay with that. I had to release that.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with whatever decision, with this current decision also. I would prefer that our employee gets what he wants, but I'm okay with whatever is decided because I just learned to let it go.
Well, and I was just wondering, why haven't you also gotten credit for the fact that your advocacy was an advantage to the employee
Credit from,
yourself?
um,
Or
I that I want to. I like that. I want to give him what he wants.
me too.
Um, I applaud myself for that.
Yeah. And but do you not applaud yourself for that? You held your ground enough that he got a better deal than he might have.
I applaud for speaking up. Yeah, I'm content with it.
I guess what I'm trying to understand underneath all of this is, why is it that if it doesn't go all in your favor, you feel that you haven't done enough?
In
Because
this,
that's my in business. I mean, that's just what it is. It's two people owning a shop together, so they're not going to agree on everything, and that's just how it goes.
That's a good question. I feel like I'm vibrating towards, like, I'm so grateful for him, and that, that gratitude is not, he doesn't have, my partner doesn't have the same gratitude. And he, um, I think he undermines,
Mhm.
uh, what we have here. And I think that used to bother me more. And I don't think I can just tell him, "Hey, man, I think you're not, you know, like I can only tell him how I felt, which I use those words. Hey, I'm very grateful for him covering all of these mornings over the span of 4 years. Like that means a lot more than what he's done inside the store. It's just that commitment, and he's reliable, and that means a lot to me. And I'm grateful for that. And I mentioned that he's more business minded. So he's like, well, it's going to cost us this much to add, to tack on an extra $2.50. And he made a good point there.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I feel we're both right.
That's what I was wondering is the origin of this thread in the conversation is we don't understand each other totally, and it creates some conflict because we teach together and we run the shop together and we're friends as well. But at the end of the day, I'm not still understanding what's the problem with not being in total agreement if you're able to, purposefully and effectively work together.
I think we've over the years we've developed our communication styles. We've had to modify our own personal styles and create one that's collaborative. We had to create our own style for each other as business owners. And it was a little rocky in the beginning because we were both not up or resorting to just disagreeing with one another emotionally, not coherently. So
Have you evolved out of it?
I believe so. Yeah, I think so.
Except for you're telling me that this is the main problem who brings about, this is the main person who brings about the I don't feel that I can fully express myself problem.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about him. I think, you know, again, this was a kid, at the time when I met him, 16, taught him jujitsu. And again, I'm 14 years older. So he might have been looking at me as a mentor figure.
Yeah.
And I was playing that role.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the lines, he grew up. And I think I was more, I don't know, I maintained an older perception that wasn't representative of my true vibration at the moment for some weird reason. And I don't know.
So what adjustment can you make now that you see that? What would be the most useful for you both as his friend and as his co-owner?
Well, I feel that when him and I communicate, I just sometimes I can't fully get off, say what I really mean, what I want to convey. And if it teeters towards any metaphysical aspects, I tend to reel it back in because not that he's not with it, but you know, he has shown that he's not with it. So, and that's what I am, it's what we all are, but it's what I'm embodying more of as I grow.
Are you disappointed by that? That he didn't become it?
No, but because me and him are in multiple partnerships,
Yeah.
and that part of me is the most important aspect of me, and it's not a thing for him yet.
Yeah.
We're on two different wavelengths.
I feel like yet is the operative word in that sentence.
Yeah, And I feel like we're just on two different wavelengths, and I'm reducing myself to match him instead of just operating from where I'm at.
Yeah, so how do you benefit from reducing yourself?
It's funny because it almost doesn't even seem to work out that way either. But it doesn't work out for me because I feel like less of myself.
Right, which is the problem you started with, is when I reduce myself, I'm not happy because my gifts are not on display and I can't use them.
Right.
So, how functional is this strategy that you've adopted to reduce yourself for his
It,
comprehension?
it's whack.
Okay, it is whack, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't feel good aside from everything else, like aside from the business part. It's not a good feeling.
Mhm.
I mean, have you worn it out?
Have I worn it out? Yeah, totally.
What's going to happen when you appear tomorrow or later today when you talk to him as your fully effervescent self without offering an explanation either? What's going to happen?
I'm gonna feel really, really good. Just being me.
How's he going to know that it's different now?
He's really not because he gets he gets some of that from me, but then there's other times where I'm not like there, and he gets a part-time personality protector self of me. But he probably doesn't really know the difference other than me being more vibrant and more talkative. Um,
I kind of feel like what you're explaining is like what happens when kids age. Because you have to protect your kids from your adult self because they can't handle it, all the things that we do, stupid things we do as adults. But then as they age, they start to get more and more in tune, but they're not at the same rate of evolution because they're younger, so it's obvious. But you have to like judge at each juncture. Okay, a little more truth, a little more honesty, a little more transparency, a little more weirdness, whatever. So,
well,
yeah.
what's funny is you have mentioned kids maybe two or three times throughout this discourse, and when I'm in the presence of kids, because I teach kids also, I'm 1,000% myself.
Exactly. Right.
So my interactions with kids are just pure, flawless fun. I
Beautiful.
into tap onto tap into their frequency, which is my frequency,
Yeah. So,
and it's playful.
why do adults not get that same version of you?
Some do, um, most do, and sometimes they don't. But yeah, I'm not sure. Why am I taking it so seriously?
I was just going to ask you that. What would happen if the whole thing became an audience of kids, even if they're not?
I know. That's why I'm like, let me just look at everyone as their own little inner child and communicate with them that way.
It's accurate, right? I mean, that is what we all are.
Yeah.
I mean, would it release the stress on you if you just did that?
Yeah. If I saw like the 6-year old version of every single person I interact with, I think I'd be gold. I'd radiate consistently.
What quality do you need to develop in yourself to make that possible? Not even possible to make that real, tangible, dependable.
Hmm. I might have to tap into play a little more often.
Okay.
Might have to just play.
How do you integrate the play into the business relationship?
That's a solid question.
You pay me for? Yeah.
That's a good one.
Take your time. There's no rush.
See, me and my partner are always joking. We're always playing. Where we send crazy ass memes
Yeah.
daily. So that's the play. That's the fun part. It's when our relationship is most rich.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's a good question. That's I have been trying to figure that out. Like, because I did realize, like, man, when I'm with kids, I'm completely myself. And with certain adults, I'm just weird, like weird for the worse,
Yeah.
not weird good.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, what is that all about integrating play into work? I mean, where did we all decide that they were separate?
Seriously.
Another one of those questions I have is when did we come up with the work personal division?
Mm-hmm.
That does not seem to be true to my experience whatsoever. I mean, I seem to be always me. Sometimes I'm doing things for money and sometimes I'm not, but I don't really see that there's a big like this part of me and this part of me. It's just all me. I just bring different elements forward depending on the context.
Right, where I feel fragmented in different scenarios, different versions of myself. It's weird.
Right. But I mean, is that just a perception of the context being other than what it really is? I mean, if we didn't have a work play, or work home divide, wouldn't we just appear more authentically everywhere?
Probably. I think like in the workplace, everybody's serious. Everybody has a goal to attain,
Yeah.
which puts pressure and the urgency to produce or whatever the case is.
But does
And
it work? That's the whole thing. Does it work when we have this business like serious urgency?
I think it works for some, but for me, I prefer to lay back and get the work done in a playful, easy manner.
Yeah, I think it's more effective that way. Are you able to show up as that playful version everywhere, or will that not work for you?
Yeah, I think I can certainly do it. I usually do it. I think I could embody that a little more for sure.
What would be good about that for you?
It's just a fun vibration to be in. So if I'm having fun, I'm at ease. I'm at ease. If I'm at ease, I'm being. So
What happens to the quantum level when you're at ease?
it's just all flow.
Right. The field loves it, right?
Mhm.
I mean, actually, the field doesn't really tolerate much else. Isn't that true? I mean, what does it do for you physically?
It shows up, physically. It's being, when I'm excited, when I'm having fun, when I'm playful. It's just a yummy ass energy,
Yeah,
representation of my highest self,
exactly.
translated through my body.
Yeah, more dopamine, more serotonin, feels better, less pain, less issues, whatever. I mean, isn't that kind of the upshot of adopting the quantum biological model? Why would you cut yourself off from it if that's what you believe in?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know what's. I feel like something's chopping me in the midst of a conversation, in the midst of teaching. Like, I don't know what it is.
You feel that something stops you?
Yeah, something slows it all down for the worst.
What? I mean, I kind of feel like you've answered it a few times, so I have a suspicion that I know, but what do you think it is?
I don't know. I get shy to express.
I mean, aren't we back to other people's view of it as the problem?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that what's so great about kids is that they don't really have a view, and even if they do, they don't really like put it into the negative ever, so it doesn't matter.
that's true.
Okay, so it's adults that create this limit on the quantum glow.
Yeah,
Okay.
some adults. But is it some adults? I mean, yeah. But then sometimes I could be like, what are you doing? And then somewhat switch back into just being calm, normal, relaxed. And
Yeah.
just
Well, I have no doubt that it's in there in you. It's just the question of what's the trigger that closes it off, and how do I become aware that it's that so that I don't succumb to it.
Mhm.
I mean, how do you feel about it right now that you know more about the context in which the problem manifests?
I feel like the problem is on the table. It's accessible.
Yeah.
It's adjustable. It's modifiable, if that's a word.
Is it just disposable? Can we just get rid of it? Can you just get rid of it? Or do you want to keep it there and work on it and modify?
Nah, get it out of here.
I mean, that's what I was wondering. You used a lot of words about modifying it, but like, why even keep it? What are you going to get out of keeping it?
Nothing. Yeah, it's getting out of here.
You sure? Are you sure you don't want to keep a little bit of it?
Mm, no, I don't.
All right, just checking.
Yeah, I don't. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, you don't. Well, it hasn't really given you anything that's been of value.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
It's informed you about who you could become. That's a better version of you. So that's been useful.
Mm,
Now you're telling me I already know that, so I don't need to keep learning it. So have you learned everything you need to learn from that feeling?
yeah.
Just check with it. I want you to make sure that you've learned all the things it came to tell you, because if you dispose of it, it's not going to teach you anything else. So have you gotten out of it all the things you need to know?
I think so. I wrote enough about it.
Like,
I've worked. Yeah.
okay,
I mean, it comes down to being, to stop trying,
yeah.
um, letting go.
And just being is what I wrote down here. I'm not trying.
Hmm. Stop trying.
How is this going to change your partnership with your girlfriend?
She's cool.
How,
I'm, I'm
how,
myself with her.
how does this change impact your relationship?
If anything, maybe makes it flow even that much more better.
Yeah, right. Why? Why does it impact her as well?
I mean, everything's already pretty good. I show up.
Yeah.
So, if anything, maybe I'll flow into cleaning quicker,
Yeah.
clean like on the spot instead of waiting 24 hours.
Cleaning what?
Dishes.
Right. Right. Because you'll be more in the flow so you can get things done better.
Yeah, I could flow smoother.
Even though the relationship is quite good, it could also make it better.
Hmm.
Is that just universally true that getting more into the flow will make everything universally better?
Hmm. I
So
believe.
I do too. Is there anything interesting or worthwhile then in not changing this?
Mhm.
I mean, so what's the problem again? Revisit the problem and tell me, is it the same problem or what's happened to it?
The problem was not showing up, but it's now starting to not feel like not showing up. It's taking on a different. Uh,
Is it still a problem, or what are you perceiving now?
well, it's not feeling like a problem anymore.
I'll take that. What
Yeah,
what is it feeling like?
it feels like I'm with me. I don't know how to explain that. It's like
Yeah,
I'm like, here I am.
yeah.
Here you go. This is me. This is how I be. This is who I be. And that's that.
Basically. Have all of your years of study shown that that is true?
It's crazy. Yeah,
I mean, I've done the same, not the same, we've done different journeys, but at the end of the day, I feel like that's what a lot of the teachings are about. Is like all your thoughts about it, all your determinations, all your fears, whatever, they don't hold a candle next to just embodying it and finding out what to do inside of that little capsule, which is a weird lingo that probably people watching are like, I don't even know what she just said, but I think you do, don't you?
yes, we speak the same language.
But I mean, wasn't that accurate?
Hmm.
So if that's it, then why not do it like all the time? Is there anything else to do? Is there an alternative?
There's nothing to do other than be.
I mean, this whole thing of trying to explain it, it's like the more we talk, the more weird it looks.
That's
Because
true.
how could you ever put that into words? Like, how are we even going to try?
That's true.
The whole phenomenon seems bizarre.
Why would I even try?
Is there anything about this whole thing that you haven't said yet that you're holding back or that I need to know?
I don't think so. And I think the same issue was prohibiting me from doing music and releasing music.
Oh, wow. Okay. What, the fear of judgment?
Yeah. But I feel that I have a handle on it and that I'm free to create.
Because at the end of the day, isn't creating it enough? I mean, the person judging you is not creating it. So what the hell, what's
Right.
hell advancement?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just do it.
I love that Brene. I'm not a huge Brene Brown fan, but I do like her. And there's one expression from her that I love, which is if you're not in the ring, you're not entitled to an opinion. I mean, only the people who are in the ring get to discuss. So if you're the one making the music, what the hell is the difference what everyone else is doing?
Mhm.
Even if it comes out terrible, you still went through the act of creating it. Is that not enough?
True.
Won't it turn out good at some point? Does it matter when or how?
Not anymore.
So, okay, so what's going to happen in the case where you're in the class and your coaches or, co-teachers or whatever are there and you're trying to explain something and it's not coming out right because they're watching? Then what happens? Like the kids are getting it, whatever, but there's some character there that puts you in that, you know, freeze state. Then
That's
what?
a good, yeah, that's a good question. So that does happen sometimes, and I feel like weird, and now I'm compensating for like big ass words. I'm like, man, I'm fucking this all up. I'm not making any sense. I'm making it worse actually.
Exactly.
Um, but I feel like I'm okay to fuck up. I fuck up. I laugh about it, make a joke about it. They all laugh.
Yeah.
Just, you know, makes the imperfection perfect in the moment because we all laughed at it.
Yep.
So I'm going to be much lighter, a lot more forgiving, and not have an agenda other than teach this art that I love
Mhm.
and go with that love and play with the words. Like I play a lot of my classes are like that where I'm just playing with the words and having fun with it.
Yeah.
They're laughing and we're just having a ball.
Because what else is there?
Exactly.
That's the quantum experience.
Hmm.
How do you know when the feeling of recalcitrance is sneaking up on you?
So that's word of the day.
I think we came up with a lot of our own phraseology today. I'm into it.
Can you say that again? I never heard of that word.
Recalcitrance, like you're, wanting to recalcitrate.
Ah,
How do you know when you're starting to detach? Like, what's the felt sense of it? I
Uh,
just want to bring attention to it so that you spot it before.
yeah, for sure. It's hard to describe it, but it's something that is in the heart chest area.
Yeah.
It's like it might be like this energetic wall that got dense and starts compressing on the heart chest area. So it's
Mhm.
like an energetic density wall
Yep.
that compresses inward.
And can you feel it as it like starts to settle in?
Correct. Yep.
What are you going to do when you notice it?
I think I'm gonna dissolve it.
Yes.
Yeah.
How?
And I've done it successfully before out of nowhere. I was like, I'm just gonna dissolve this.
Yeah.
And it worked one time.
I mean,
Um,
with quantum skills, I'm thinking you probably have like a light radar or a like lightsaber or something like that, and you can just
exactly. I'll create definitely a ball of fire, something, but I'll figure it out.
yeah. Okay, so you're going to create some kind of tool or weapon. I don't like the word weapon so much, but you're going to create something that can penetrate that wall.
That's right. Dissolve it as it's forming.
Once it's penetrated, what happens once it dissolves?
Once it dissolves, I'm back clear to being me,
Yeah.
back clear embodying me.
And just to clarify, you were you the whole time, but you just forgot. Is that right?
Yeah,
Like you came and went. It's like I was always there, but I started to like lose my connection
there it is.
to go get the new person. It's still there. It's just that you have to block the limiting feeling and then return to the
Yes, correct. Yep.
underlying feeling.
Hmm.
Okay, so how do you feel right now?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna forge my tool for the
Yeah.
rest of the day.
I
Forge a few of them.
would like you to let me know what you end up forging.
Mhm.
You send me an instant message, let's say maybe Friday or Monday, and just tell me like what your toolkit includes.
Of course.
And also, I'd like you to tell me like, oh, and I went to X and Y situation and I felt this. And if you had any questions, you could throw them in as well. But I'd just like some update.
Of course.
How do you feel like in your body right now?
I feel cool. Feel relaxed.
You might feel a little tired.
Yeah. I was definitely much more nervous getting on this call.
Okay, good. I like that. We proved the concept right here that you can use a tool to get through the wall.
Mhm.
So you might feel tired. I want you to rest. It would be great if when we hang up, you just take a nap.
So I
Even
can't drink. Can I drink a matcha latte?
absolutely, especially if you're made it yourself at your shop that you created.
Hmm.
Yeah, have a latte, sit around. I mean, the only thing is don't think about it. We don't need to write anything down. You don't need to journal. You don't need to like reflect.
Right. Yeah.
Reflect.
I'm gonna let it simmer. I'm gonna let it just interweave any circuits, and that's it.
And you might notice some weird or funny feelings. I know you're already weird in yourself, but you might notice, oh, there's a memory I haven't had, or a thought I haven't had, or an idea, or a explanation I would like to give at some point. You might start to get those thoughts, notice them, and that's it.
Hmm.
That's your mind just figuring out how to organize this better for you. So there's nothing to do except for watch that.
Perfect.
Do you have any questions?
I don't.
Do you know how long we've been here?
I don't. What time is it?
It's actually shy of 2 hours, so it's like an hour, 42 minutes right now.
Okay, good. Are your sessions average 90 minutes to 2 hours?
That's why I'm kind of surprised because I'm almost always 2 hours on the dot exactly, except for I've noticed since I've been teaching this past weekend and, prior to that and doing the demos that they're faster with an audience. So I'm very interested to know, what is it, that there's more energy? Is it that the observation factor changes the field? Like, why are we accelerating the breakthroughs with observers? I just think it's like a super interesting, speaking of interesting quantum phenomena, like that's an interesting one. You know, Schrodinger's cat, that experiment about like when you watch, if you open I never understand the actual experiment, but it's something about you watching determines if the cat is alive or dead. I don't totally get it, but it's
Mm,
about like the observer affects the outcome.
yeah.
Some phenomenon like that happening with ACH that I haven't like nailed down yet, but it's definitely true. My training breakthroughs are like 2/3 of the time of my regular ones, categorically. So something is happening.
Interesting.
I know. We need to like do a study on this. Well, I'm really happy I got to hang out and work with you today, and I look forward to your update. And I'm gonna bring everybody back. There's only, let's see, 3 people watching. So if you want to go, Marcos, that's cool. If you want to stay, I'll stay till 3 and just see if anyone has questions. And if not, what I'm gonna do after this is I'm going to dub my voice over this video so that you can all hear what I was thinking as the session unfolded.
That's
So that's
cool.
my purpose in recording these. So let's just see first, though, does anybody here have a question? And like I said, Marcos, if you want to chill, that's cool.
Yeah, maybe I'll pop off because coffee shop soon, so I'll go rest.
Yeah, I would love it if you would just go rest. Well, thank you for coming, and you know where to find me, so I'll see you. Oh, we have a mentoring group tomorrow, so maybe I'll see you there.
Sweet. 10 o'clock, right?
10 o'clock, I'll be there. Post any questions you have in the group.
That's it.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
I'm
Marco.
leaving soon. I'll stay for like
Oh,
2
okay.
So,
Uh,
who's that, Domino?
Yeah,
um,
hi. Thanks for
Hi.
sharing. That was
Thank you
great.
for listening.
Really, really fun conversation.
gotcha. What's your first? I'm trying to make everybody come back here, but I don't know how. There we go. Sarah, what's your question?
Yeah, okay. So it seemed like this particular problem was kind of elusive. So when people come with something like that, what kind of guarantee or what kind of promise are you making as far as results goes? Is it, what does that look like?
I agree with you. And actually, it's funny that you asked that, because you asked what happened at the end of the discovery call. So, one question that got asked at the end of the discovery call was, Lorraine said, well, how are you going to know when he's done? Like, I don't understand what he even came for yet. So, I actually forgot about that. And I was going to ask him at the beginning of this session, how are we going to know that we're done? So I think that's like a reasonable question, and it's fair to just ask it flat out. In this case, because it was a demo and I don't have, a payment writing on it, I'm less obviously concerned about it. But actually, my real answer is I just know that the problem is not the problem. And I know that what the client leaves with is going to be better than what they thought they were coming for. So as long as I'm tracking them really carefully, as I was tracking Marcos, I could tell that it was getting better and better and better and better until it reached a point of him feeling either tired of talking about it or satisfied enough that he got somewhere important. So like if he were a paying client right now, I feel 100% completely confident that he's going to change his behavior and his actions to such an extent that it's going to impact his life enough that he's not going to perceive the problem the same way anymore. If I wasn't confident of that, I would totally keep going, or I would test him harder. Like, did you see that I stopped before hypothetical testing? Because he just doesn't need it. Like, he already got clear, he came up with his resources, he knew what he wanted, his body changed, his energy changed, the communication was good the whole way through. Like, why do I need to take him any further than that? He's good. So I guess part of it is my feeling, my intuition, and that we got to a place where I can see there's a effective change underway. And I'll go back to part A of the answer, which is if you have a paying client and you're unclear about that, by all means, clarify it and ask.
I love that
What I
explanation.
yeah, it was good.
What was that?
I like to clarify too. I feel like as and Maya, maybe you can just confirm this, but as I'm seeing more and more and like even just using the ACH like in daily life, like with everyone, it's that really like it's so simple. Like I think we're trying to overanalyze too much, which is definitely something I feel like I came into this doing. So it's very simple. And I think also like something that I noticed from the previous demo that I watched with you is that there's a very really ease and there's this grace and there's also just like an acceptance for wherever the client's at, however you're like you have to accept them at face value. I feel like because there were moments when I was catching myself being like, but is he really done? Like he's saying he's like I'm done, but I'm like no, there has to be more. And I'm like, but what if I'm not? So I think it's also just right, like kind of just taking a step back. Like it's easier than we think it is. And I think I really believe too, like when you said about like the energy and the observation, like that's proven, like even with, with the factor of there's like this study that's the power of 8 with Lynn McTaggart. I don't know if you guys know her, but she works and she studied the field in the quantum space. And she actually has groups where she just picked a random number of 8 because her husband told her to, but they've been actually able to see that like with clear intention
Right.
within a group of individuals that enhances the field and the intention at a rapidly increasing rate. So I definitely think that that's part of it. But that was a really great session. Thanks, guys.
In double-blind studies of a control group that's prayed for versus a control group that's not prayed for, the group that's prayed for heals faster, even if they don't know they're being prayed for. So that must mean that the field is effective somehow. I mean, or that the field is amplifiable somehow. And then as for your comments about it's easier than it looks, I mean, or that, we perceive it to be, I mean, what was that other than just like a truly heartfelt, honest, mature conversation where we just leveled with each other? I mean, like ACH notwithstanding, that's the tool I use because it's the fastest. But at the end of the day, it's a really honest, logical conversation that inevitably leads to the truth. The only quality that you really have to bring to that is persistence and focus. I mean, that's the whole thing, is like it looks simple and graceful, but like if I wasn't really tracking it, it would have been a lot different. So that part, I don't think you can communicate that well because it's what's happening in your own head, but you do have to persist. At what point or ever do you pull out other tools besides ACH? Sierra wants to know. Well, not in the first session. In the first session, I try to stick to ACH because I know that if I start pulling out my tools, then I'm undermining the power of ACH. So I think it's taken me a while to just like stick to it. And now I stick to it for the second session as well. Sometimes in 3 and 4, and I think I'm going to just eliminate those because if I'm not doing ACH, what am I doing really? But sometimes I'll do something else. But really, I don't deviate too much from ACH. Like I would say out of the cohort, I'm pretty much an ACHer. And I think that's part of my success strategy is I'm not second guessing the skill. I'm really like exhausting the skill, even when I'm not sure. Like 30 minutes into this one, I started to get a little nervous because I was like, okay, we've circled the same conversation now 6 or 8 times. He hasn't told me anything of value, that I can use beyond his symptomatic explanation. But then I have another voice that just comes in that tells me, you just started, like, just keep going. You don't know what's going to happen yet. And then sure enough, he has a regression about my, when I was 7. And then he has another relationship in his life that he never mentioned to begin with about this partner. I mean, he didn't come to me and say, I can't communicate with my partner that great and I'm a shell of a person, when I interact with him. That would have been a whole other session. But it came out, what, 80 minutes in? I mean, so there's something subconscious going on there. Why didn't he just put that up front? Because what? He didn't know that was the problem. He didn't want to tell me. I don't know. Something. I thought it was also super weird when we were talking about his girlfriend. And then suddenly out of nowhere, he says, and I'll clean up everything faster. And I was like, I don't even know what clean up what? What are we talking about? Like, I don't know what we're speaking about. But all I did, I didn't flinch. I didn't do anything. I was just like, all right, so you're going to be cleaning up more, like, tell me more about that. I mean, that's the ACH is like, I don't know. I don't exactly know where it's going. I don't have a plan. I don't know what knot is about to undo itself. But like, that was a great one. I'm super happy that his house is going to be cleaner and that his girlfriend is going to be happier with that. Fantastic. What a great multiple outcomes. But I mean, if I had started pulling out my other tools, and been like, okay, now close your eyes and let's do a blah, 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 or like, let's, set an anchor, I would have interrupted that. But that was beautiful. Like, he didn't even know he wanted it. So I think like persistence and giving space and time is so very hard to do. And that's where the like real talent comes in. I mean, everybody knows, right? I'm sure that everybody on this panel knows the better you get at something, the simpler it becomes. I mean, it's true for jujitsu, it's true for parenting, it's true for professional pursuits, it's true for ACH. Like, the reason it looks great, graceful, and simple is because I've gotten better at it. I don't think it necessarily looks that way at the outset because we're trying hard, because of what Sierra said. Okay, well, what else can I do? What else can I do? Like, don't worry about that. It's actually true to Marcos's problem. What else can I do to explain it to you? Forget that. Just be yourself. It doesn't matter.
You did do a little parts therapy.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that's true. And did it help? Did it mean something to you?
Of course. I got a message.
Yeah. Well, and you did regression spontaneously. I mean, I don't know what that whole thing with your partner was about, but that's some kind of relationship work or coaching or business coaching or something. I mean, as you can see too, like some of my tools are rapport. Like when I share the thing about my dating life and how you don't have to appear as anyone other than yourself. I mean, that's not exactly ACH. That's more like storytelling. It's like more traditional therapy, not traditional therapy, traditional hypnosis. But I mean, sometimes I use that and sometimes I don't. It's super much intuitive for me. Bigly. To use Marcos's term, it's bigly intuitive for me. Any other questions?
Yeah, I guess just looking back like now post reflection for you, what is in like what do you think? Like do you go, I know you have told us like you just said it, let it go. But just for learning purposes now, is there anything significant that you did that where you saw the shift or like the key moments when you're like, uh-huh, I know what's happening? I mean, I even feel kind of I don't feel retarded. I'm asking to ask, but it's like I already kind of know your answer, but I'm always kind of looking for a different answer. Does that make sense to you?
I want to know what my answer is.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, because what I'm asking, I guess, is yeah, like, do you have any post session reflections with like maybe things that you could have done better to improve? And what do I think your answer is going to be? Nothing.
I mean, I
Because it's in the moment, it's intuitive, but I mean, but I'm just looking, I'm always just trying to see analytical.
It's a really good question. And there are
Yeah.
some memories that I have of ACH sessions where the tipping point is like screaming at me. Like I'm super clear and I know absolutely that that's it. And we covered it. Like I had one yesterday. It was fascinating. woman has anxiety. She's like not happy with herself. She's not feeling calm. Her sleep's a little off. Anyway, we get into the session and eventually she says, like, everything's always a rush. I'm like anxious because I'm hurrying, and I'm anxious because of this, and I can't sleep because I have to do other things. And it all becomes about rushing, right? And so I'm like, okay, so now rushing is the problem. Okay. So at some point, she spontaneously tells me that her father died when she was 7, and her mom sent her to school that day, the day her dad died. And she hasn't got any idea what's this connected to. So at some point in the conversation, I said, well, so you were rushed through your grief. They rushed you off to school when you really needed to stay home and cry. And like the whole universe froze. Like I could feel it. Like really intense amount of clicking happened. And she realized in that moment, oh, they rushed me through my grief and they rushed me through my childhood, and I never stopped rushing. And then the whole rest of the hour was her solving everything all at once. Like I didn't see one of those in this case. I don't think Marcos had like one element that created this. He had several. So sometimes it is down to like, okay, now we're over it and now the rest is recovery. And sometimes it's just a meandering conversation where layers and layers and layers of things all came together. And I don't mind if it's one or the other. Everyone's different.
Mhm.
I mean, what do you guys think was the tipping point for Marcos? Let's end with that. Where was the tipping point in that session? Marcos, do you have a feeling?
I'm still daisy.
That's good. Enjoy that.
I'll come back to it.
I think the tipping point for Marcos was when he realized that a week or two ago, he had already realized why he was there in the chair. Because he had already resourced himself prior with the same resource he came up with today, but it wasn't ratified. So I was a ratifier.
Mhm.
And that was good enough for him. Like it was basically his inner child saying, I already have solved this. I'm already beyond needing the session, but I need you to tell me I'm right.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it felt like. She was re-echoing some solutions I had kind of figured out, and her confirmation helped to seal it in even more, along with her quantum sprinkles. So
I like
And
that.
you got more insight into why that answer was right, other than I just feel that it is. Like
right.
the cool thing about ACH is it'll explain anything to you. Why I came up with this resource, why I came up with this trauma, how do I get out of it? I mean, it's like infinitely powerful that way. So Marcos backwards justified to himself his own rationalization, which he already had. And by the way, he had that before. He already knew this whole thing before last week when he says he implanted it. That's not accurate. He didn't just do it a week ago. He's been working on that his whole life. That's what being a spiritual seeker is. So he happens to think that the clarity came at this point. Great. Now we're ratifying it. Now we're going over why that is correct. And now he has a lot more momentum to go forward. That's super different than what the lady had yesterday, where she just like fell into her answer in a moment. Or like in Jim's case, remember the one that I did with Jim that some of you have watched? It was the red ants. The jigglier legs was directly related to the red ants. Did everything else matter? The war, the PTSD, the whatever. Yes, of course. But when he hit the red ants, the whole thing was moving in a different direction. I think those are all ACH and beautiful, but not the same.
And it just goes to show that every single client is different. Every single session is going to be different.
And it also shows you that there's no direction, there's no one way. Like everything you could pull on that Marcos was saying would have led him back to where he ended up. That's why there's really no pressure. Like there's no pressure on you. But don't worry so much. Just sparkle. Yeah, I do believe that. I do believe that the majority of this job is having the persistence to commit the focus for the amount of time.
Yeah.
The quality of the questions is secondary.
Nice.
Are you also seeing your clients already healed, already solved before you start?
I saw you solved 6 weeks ago when we planned this. I mean, I think I saw it before that, and then you asked me for the session, so I was like, okay, fine, but it's already been done way, way prior. So yeah, I do think the sessions are like accomplishing a quantum reality that's already done. Yes, definitely. I don't feel responsible for knowing what that is, but I feel that playing with it is important. And yes, like I told you at the discovery call or at the training or one of the ones that I've done recently, they're all starting to smush together. I do spend a moment prior to every single session just seeing the person with the outcome they said they wanted. And it doesn't mean specifically, it's not like I sat here and pictured Marcos like saying his explanations and feeling great about it. But like there's in some part of my soul, I see him more complete. I see him more grounded. I see him more embodying his quantum weirdness. You know, that's totally energetic. So then when he comes on the screen, it's already done. Definitely. I mean, you know, this whole thing about the client doesn't come with a problem, they come with a solution. I just think if we can all, yeah, if we can just like really live that as the bottom line, that's the whole thing of projecting the outcome. Inside of his problem, his solution already resided, and he knew that, and so did everybody watching. So there's nothing to do except for like wait for it to emerge out of the mess, you know, out of the mud.
I just want to be able to ACH myself out of that, because there's like, even though the mindset is right, and there's still obviously like the ego comes in, you know, like thinking and worrying about all of these little logistical details, which, you know, you continue to confirm that aren't necessary, nor do they serve really a purpose.
Yeah, but I agree with you, and I
agree with that.
and when I have
Yeah.
a $5 client, I still have a little twinge of that too. So I feel you, but also at the end of the day, all you can rely on is your experience. Like the only reason I'm more confident than you are is because I've done a lot more sessions. That's it. It's not that I'm better at it. I just have more faith because I've seen lots of people come out the other side with the outcome they asked for.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm telling you, as we were talking about at the beginning, offer a sale, you know, give it to your friends in exchange for a review. Like trade with people in the group in exchange for a review. It's really the best way to build that confidence. Actually, there's no alternative. You have to do it that way.
Yeah. You have to do. Use it or lose it.
Be what was Marcos's? I'm just being, yeah.
Being.
Just being.
Yeah, like with my practice ACH sessions, of which I've done a few, like I'm pretty free and I'm just completely accepting on how it happens. Kind of like this session. I know my session was probably a little elusive, but just like you said, you know, it's more of a ratifying type of session. You knew that innately, instinctually as it flowed. But yeah, like I'm like, the session is what the session is, and it's up to the their subconscious mind to process after. So,
and by the way, and speaking of ratification, the last thing I'll say about it is like one thing that stands out to me about Marcos's session, which you'll notice when you watch them alongside everyone else's, is how much I matched him. Like there's all of this lingo and all of this like inventive language, like I don't know what any of that is. I don't like it just came out of me because that's how he thinks and how he understands things. So me using it made his subconscious be like, oh, she's tracking me, you know? So like all of those, phrases, and then I came up with a word at some point, and we were talking about the quantum awesomeness and all this whatever, whatever. Like a lot of people watching this are going to be like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And yet he seems to know exactly what she means. Like, where did that come from? I mean, the only possible place it came from is our connection, which we created together in that moment. It's not contrived, it's not planned. I mean, I am interested to rewatch it for that. Yeah, like Marcos made me speak his language, so I spoke it. Every client has that. His just happens to be like super far out, so we can really see it. So I think matching went a long way in the ratifying on this one. So I'll see some of you tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you have questions you want me to answer tomorrow, post them in the group. If you are not going to be there, you can watch the recording later. I think Domino, you're actually my next demo client. So I'll make sure you're on the schedule and we'll get that sorted out. Thank you for coming. This was going to be posted in the group. I'll just post the session itself and then I'll post the voiceover when I get it done. So it'll be posted in both groups, the ACH group and the mentoring group.
And you're moving from Podia to Kajabi?
I'm gonna have to move because I have already lost track of the 50 hours that I've recorded and I cannot seem to get it on Podia any better than it is. So yeah, now we will. I will post the next training on Podia by the end of the week, so today or tomorrow, but then next month will be on Kajabi.
All right, sounds good.
It takes a little minute because it takes forever for these long videos to upload, so thank you for your patience.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Marcos. Have a
Thanks.
beautiful day, guys.
Good, everybody. Marcos, get some rest.
I am. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.